Hey everyone, welcome to Man Cave Insider. I'm Dennis. Thank you so much for joining me. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can see past and future videos. We are here in my man cave, and this room is filled with things I've collected my entire life. These are the stories behind them. And today, we're going to take a look at the upcoming release, Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago, Ultimate Director's Cut, which is a complete re-edit of the classic film done by writer, director, and star Sylvester Stallone, which adds over 40 minutes of unseen footage to this classic. The movie is going to be playing in theaters for one night only, and I've already got my ticket. Then it's going to be released digitally the following day with an eventual release on 4K, Blu-ray, and DVD. When Rocky was released in 1976 and won Best Picture, the world was introduced to one of cinema's most enduring and beloved characters, Rocky Balboa. And 45 years later, that character is just as popular and just as relevant as it was in 1976. After the release of Rocky III in 1982, Stallone felt that he had completed the Rocky trilogy. He felt that there was another story to be told, and he wanted to put Rocky in a different setting than the first three films, bringing him to the international stage. The first Rocky film was influenced by the fight between Muhammad Ali and journeyman Chuck Wepner. Rocky IV took its influence from two fights between American Joe Louis and German Max Schmeling, which took place in 1936 and 1938 at the height of tensions between America and Nazi Germany. These fights captivated the world. Both fights took place at Yankee Stadium in front of 70,000 spectators, with over 50 million people listening to the fights on radio. Schmeling won the first fight by knocking Louis out in the 12th round, and Louis avenged the loss in 1938 by knocking Schmeling out during the first round. In search of someone to fill the role of superhuman boxer Ivan Drago, Stallone saw over 8,000 actors, athletes, boxers, and wrestlers. He eventually cast the role with Dolph Lundgren, who was a 4th-degree Dan black belt in Kyokushin karate and was a European champion in 1980 and 1981. Lundgren also has a master's degree in chemical engineering. While working as a bodyguard for singer Grace Jones, the two began dating, and Jones convinced Lundgren to start pursuing acting. Lundgren's only film credit before Rocky IV was the role of a KGB henchman in the James Bond film A View to a Kill. Stallone was so impressed with Lundgren, he also cast him in the movie he shot immediately before Rocky IV, Rambo First Blood Part 2, and Lundgren even flew down to Mexico to film the movie. At the last second, Stallone changed his mind and decided that he wanted to save Lundgren for Rocky IV. This movie broke away from a lot of the traditions of other Rocky films. This was the only Rocky movie not to be scored by veteran composer Bill Conti. This was the only Rocky movie not to be shot partially in Philadelphia, and this was also the first Rocky movie that did not have the title scrolling at the very beginning of the film. Rocky IV began shooting in spring of 1985 in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Jackson Hole, Wyoming doubled for Siberia, and Vancouver. Stallone wanted the film to be as authentic as possible, and the actors were using real punches throughout the filming of the movie. While shooting the fight between Drago and Apollo Creed, Lundgren threw actor Carl Weathers into the corner, and Weathers stormed off the set, threatening to quit and shutting down production for 4 days. Stallone eventually sat down with both actors, they worked everything out, and resumed filming. While Stallone was shooting his fight scenes with Lundgren, Lundgren hit him so hard in the chest that it bruised Stallone's heart, and he had to spend 8 days in the ICU, which shut production down for 2 weeks. The climactic fight scene between Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago was shot at the Argo Dome in Vancouver with over 10,000 extras and is regarded by many as the greatest cinematic fight of all time. To coincide with the release of the film was one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, which featured the songs Eye of the Tiger and Burning Heart by Survivor. No Easy Way Out by Robert Tepper, Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty, and Living in America, which gave R&B legend James Brown his final top 10 hit. Rocky IV was released in November of 1985 and grossed $300 million worldwide, not only making it the highest grossing Rocky film of all time, it was also the highest grossing sports film of all time, and that stood until 2009 when the film The Blind Side grossed $309 million. Stallone would make two more Rocky films, 1990's Rocky V and Rocky Balboa in 2006. He then reprised the character for the 2015 film Creed, where he trained Apollo Creed's son Adonis, played by Michael B. Jordan. The legacy of Rocky IV has endured all of these years, so much so that when Stallone went to write Creed II, he decided to continue the story and the characters from Rocky IV. Creed II saw Adonis Creed fighting Victor Drago, son of Ivan Drago, and Dolph Lundgren returned to the role he had portrayed over 30 years before. Creed II would go on to make $218 million worldwide, and it gave the character of Ivan Drago a much more human feel that wasn't seen in the original Rocky IV. Based on the popularity of Creed II, Stallone decided to do a re-edit of the original Rocky IV for the film's 35th anniversary and announced that he was working on this in 2020. So what is going to be in the director's cut of Rocky IV? Well, the original cut of Rocky was over 1 hour longer than its final theatrical release of 91 minutes, making it the shortest Rocky film of all 8. This director's cut is going to be 40 minutes longer than the original, coming in at 2 hours and 10 minutes. One scene that was in the trailer was a scene where Rocky is talking to the boxing commission, trying to get them to sanction a match between Rocky and Drago. Another scene shows Rocky and Adrian at Rocky's funeral, where Rocky is overcome by guilt of the death of Apollo Creed. Another scene shows a longer conversation between Rocky and his son before Rocky goes off to train for the fight. The fight scene between Drago and Apollo Creed is also going to be much longer and much more intense. And in the novelization of Rocky IV, there are several passages that have Apollo training for his fight with Drago, but it is unknown whether or not these scenes were actually shot. I've loved all of the Rocky films, but this film always had a superhero type quality to it, of Rocky fighting the almost seemingly invincible Ivan Drago. And I'm so excited to see Stallone's new take on this classic film. I have several things in my collection from Rocky and from Rocky IV. I have the heavyweight collection, which includes the original 6 Rocky films. I've got Creed 1 and 2. I've got this Japanese program from the original release of Rocky IV in 1985. For Halloween a couple of years ago, my friend and I decided to get dressed up as Rocky and Ivan Drago, and I have this replica Ivan Drago robe. And my friend Chris and I even got to meet Dolph Lundgren a couple of years ago, and I have a pair of Drago trunks signed by Dolph Lundgren. And when we were talking to him, he even told us that he works out sometimes while listening to Rocky music, which I thought was just one of the coolest things ever. So that is it for our look at Rocky IV and a preview of Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago, Ultimate Director's Cut. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and we look forward to seeing you next time.